All right. Welcome to Celebrating Mother Earth. This is going to be an off the cuff kind of conversation that Laura Varga and I have been thinking about for a little while now, and we're happy to have Anne Marie joining us as well. We wanted to do something to celebrate Earth Day, but we wanted it to be something a little different. Typically, when people think about, something to do for Earth Day, it's picking up garbage in a local park or buying a reusable water bottle or thinking of other lifestyle changes that can reduce our impact on the earth. And those are all really valuable and really meaningful things. And that's not what this is about. This is going to be something a little different. And the reason is that we've been both independently thinking a lot about our individual and unique relationship with the earth, how we are supported by the earth on a daily basis, especially over the last year through this pandemic, but also in feeling that support and deepening into that relationship. How do we then, from a place of reciprocity, support the earth? And that's different for every person. That isn't, buying the water bottle or picking up the garbage. That is a very individual, unique relationship. And so that's what we want to talk about today, in a really gentle way, always without expectation, always without judgment, and just an authentic conversation. So very little planning has gone into this, which is one of the reasons why I love collaborating with Laura so much, because she's gutsy enough to just go for it. So that's what we're doing tonight. And yeah, I guess, is there anything else you want to add, Laura, for a bit of an intro to what we'll be
I
chatting
think
about?
that you said it. It's going to be an open, honest discussion, very much off the cuff, but something that comes very naturally to both of us. And honoring the earth today is more about honoring what our connection is to the earth and what it does for us on a daily basis, as opposed
Yeah.
to the other things that are normally celebrated on Earth Day.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. One of the ways that we thought we could get a conversation started is by prompting with a few questions and then just seeing what organically happens from there. And one of the first questions that you wrote to me, which I love, is in what ways do you find connection to earth and nature on a daily basis?
Mm-hmm.
You want to go first, Laura?
I would
In
love
what
to.
ways do you find connection to earth and nature on a daily basis?
So, like you said, in the last year, this has become very important, but definitely I have learned a lot about what it means for me to even just step outside my door and get a breath of fresh air, even when things seem chaotic or stressful. Um, for me, it means getting out for that breath of fresh air and then looking around and seeing that there's even more out there that could calm me and help me. And in the last year, I've committed to, I walk every single day, and it makes such a difference in my life and makes me feel connected to the flow and the peacefulness, that kind of the natural flow of life, and observing the way that things grow, the way that things change. I love running into animals in nature, and that actually brings me pure joy. And it's incredible how it's this simple thing that's right outside everyone's doorstep. But sometimes it's the hardest part for us to pull away from whatever it is that we're committed to, that's in front of us, all the responsibilities and all of that stuff. So for me, it's making sure that sometimes I think I'm just going to go get a breath of fresh air. And then I know, no, I'm out there, I'm going to go for a walk. And that changes my day every time.
Mm-hmm. Annie, if you want to share, you just jump in.
Uh,
But you're also welcome to sit silently.
yeah, no, I envy you both because I know both of your properties and it's nothing like mine. So my ways of connecting with nature tend to be just um, a little bit different. And not that I don't go out for walks and not that I don't have the opportunity to step outside and have a breath of fresh air, but I'm so tied to my computer on most days with work that it makes it
Mhm.
sometimes difficult. But the one thing that I do really enjoy is having the ability to look just right outside my window here and to see the trees change over
Yeah.
the period of time, or observe the birds. We have an incredible number of birds that connect me to nature, and it gives me that moment of just stopping and saying it has nothing to do with what's behind the screen and everything to do with what's going on around me, and how life is carrying on a non-technical way around me with animals and birds nearby. So it's really lovely. I've found I now I tend to, whenever I do see animals or birds, specifically, I will, as Claire knows, I've taken up the practice of finding out what they mean and what message the universe is trying to send to me with the symbolism behind that particular bird or animal. It's a really nice way of reconnecting with the earth and the creatures that live in it.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so true, Annie. When we talked about the animal totems and almost cherishing that moment, right? That time with that animal and going, oh, what, not only what it meant to you in that moment and that time that you spent, but what deeper meaning could it have?
Yeah.
And it makes this experience richer. It kind of makes it more memorable. And I think in some ways you're deepening that experience by taking it,
And you're
by
focusing on
learning
it.
more.
Like you could say,
Yeah,
I've been on walks.
yeah.
I've been on walks, and it'll be like, oh, look, there's a cardinal. But then it's like, oh no, look at, there's a cardinal, and what is it doing, and where is it going, and what's like, all of a sudden you start to
Yeah.
connect more fully with it rather than just an
Mhm.
observation.
And a full appreciation.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
kind of going back to what you had said, Laura, about talking, or not talking, about walking, and how, once you get out there, then it takes on a different element and a deeper
Yeah,
Mhm.
element, and you get more
absolutely.
connected with what's happening because you're now focusing on that. It
Yeah.
Yeah.
gives you that extra layer of reconnecting with what the world is all about outside of our little worlds.
Yeah. And so I keep coming back to the whole stay at home, and yes, most people, they think of the four walls. And I'm mentioning to Laura that I often find at night, for me each day, as the day is wrapping up and the kids are in bed and I'm kind of, shoulders are dropping and I'm breathing a little deeper and I'm releasing that stress. Sometimes it's just having the bathroom window open while I'm washing my face and brushing my teeth and feeling the breeze, catching the last little bit of the sun. And that's when I sometimes will walk right by the dirty dishes and go, no, I couple more minutes outside, please, before I'm ready to end the day. And I think that, it people always talk about habit forming, and what is it that's habit forming about that connection? And it's because, yeah, the shoulders drop a little bit more, sleep comes easier, I'm
Mhm.
able to put things away for the day and just give myself that time and permission. And a big one for me has been the permission to walk by all those other things that need to be done, because at that moment they're not important, they're not what I
Mhm.
need.
Yeah. I I find too, you're right. Those things are always there, and then we can always come back to it, and it's never ending. So if you don't at some point just give in and give yourself permission, then that's the never ending form of the habit cycle. And it's incredible how when you do give yourself permission to just go outside, even though there's a bunch of other things that need to be done, the energy that comes from that to then get those jobs done later, it changes everything.
Yeah.
It's
Well, and the sun only sets for so long, those
yeah,
colors only last for a few minutes. And we were
exactly.
talking about, what do you learn from that time in nature, or what do you receive from that time in nature? And God, Isn't it a reminder that, the buds are only on the trees for a few days? Annie, I bet you look out every day and you see a difference.
And that's
right?
the beautiful
And if
thing
you
is
didn't look
that
one
I
day,
make a point of doing that. I open up my curtains when I get in my office every day and I go, look what's happened now.
Yeah.
yeah,
It's lovely.
yeah. And it's a much more meaningful and beautiful way to kind of mark the passage of time. As opposed to every morning starting with the phone in your hand and the calendar and the to-do lists. It doesn't take much time. Like Laura, I bet even when you're out on the longest walks each day,
Yeah.
you could probably be spending that time wastefully in other ways, but
Yeah.
you've carved out that little bit of time for you, right?
Yeah. And it takes a lot to build that into a habit. It takes a lot of commitment. And, it's almost like you're forcing yourself to do something that turns out to be really incredible, but it's not something that we're normally supported in doing or allowed to do, or, permission. It's the
Yeah.
permission. Yeah.
Well, it's
Yeah.
there's some sort of requirement that you be achieving something at the end of it all, and inner peace isn't something, right? So it's kind of like
Yeah.
it's kind of like exercising, right? It's all okay if we're actually losing weight or getting our 1,000 steps in or whatever the case may be. But if it's just, oh,
Right.
I just needed to actually breathe. Well, you can do that in your
Yeah.
chair,
Or find
right?
balance.
No,
Right.
no, you can't.
Yeah.
It's yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to lead into our second question. So the second question was, in what ways do you feel supported and nurtured by this connection to nature?
Yeah. I love that question. I'm not sure if we've already covered it, but for me, it's almost like therapy. It can completely change something that I think, if I'm overwhelmed about something or I'm having a bad day, I can go outside and sit somewhere or feel the breeze, or even for me, it's looking at a sunset or a sunrise. It just, to me, puts everything in perspective. Or even at night, on a clear night, I probably get up a few times to go, like, I just go look at the stars, and just to see what they're doing and what the moon phase is. And to me, those things just take me out of all of the small little things that we focus on every day, and then it opens it up to, this is the world that's supporting me, and it makes me feel nurtured, and it makes me feel like I don't need to focus on the things that, I don't know, I'm not sure if I'm saying this right, but like, it makes everything else seem smaller and irrelevant compared to the incredible things that happen in nature, in the universe, all around us every day. And those things just happen naturally. So I don't have to try so hard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like effortlessly. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
So
it's
that's
a
how I
mind.
feel.
Yeah, it's a mindfulness.
Yeah.
We don't worry about those other things, those other myriad things that are a time, in a sense, some ways, a time suck on our day or on our energy or whatever the case may be, because in that moment, all I'm concerned with is what I'm experiencing at that second. I feel that way when I go on the forest walks.
Yeah.
That's not to say it's kind of like meditation or yoga or anything, right? The thoughts come, you recognize them, and then you move on, because what the real focus is what am I seeing that's right in front of me, not what is the vision that's in my head, right?
Yeah.
And that just gives you permission to let go, find peace, and have the opportunity to just reset. It's I would say that's what it does for me, is it resets me. It gives me that opportunity to say, stop. It's almost like a ridiculous stop, drop, and roll, right?
Like, hey, you put it down.
Yeah.
Stop peeking.
Exactly.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I refer to the sun and the moon, like sunrise, sunset, and the stars. Just, it makes me in awe of what's around us, and then it stops you in your tracks, and you can't help but focus on that.
There's been a lot of talk in the forest therapy world about the nature, like your brain on nature. And one of the things, I mean, I don't want to get techie at all, but it's simple. It's that we have this habit of ruminating and just turning over all of the same problems or scenarios or ways that we can find our way out of the situation that we find ourselves in. And over the last year, most of us, we can't.
Yeah.
It is what it is. And that's a really
Yeah.
hard thing to accept. And I find that any time that I start honestly thinking beyond the next couple days, I'm trying to take it a day at a time. Sometimes I try and look at the week and I go, oh, that's ambitious, an entire week of planning. But when it feels like it's too much, which it often does, because so much is out of our control right now, that's where I feel, to avoid that rumination, to avoid that sort of spiral, right? That thought process where you just kind of get caught up to the point where the anxiety begins to build and you start thinking, how do I cope?
Yeah.
And, your breath tightens, everything tenses, and you get that sort of feeling of, oh my gosh, I'm supposed to be in control. I'm supposed to be caring for my family. I'm supposed to be nurturing others around me. How can I possibly do this? And what I find is stepping outside, it's a reminder that everything happens in the time that it's meant to happen, in the way that it's meant to happen. The water flows the way that the land leads it, or vice versa, right? It all finds its own path. And I think that I need that reminder every day. I need that reminder. And I think we used to live that way. As humans, instinctively, we were so connected to the land, and to the earth, that's how we lived. We followed the seasons. We watched the buds. We knew where, the signs of spring. We knew safety. We knew, I don't know. It's just, I think that buried deep within us, generations and generations and generations back, we still have that sense or connection to security and support and nurturing from the earth. It still sustains us, even though it comes in boxes and bags now.
That's true. It does still sustain us and nurture us. That's so true.
Yeah.
It's nice.
Are we ready for question 3?
Sure.
Okay. So question 3 kind of turns this all on its head. And Laura, this is what you've written. How do you feel that this is a reciprocal relationship? And I kind of wrote down, what do you mean? Like, how do you express gratitude or love or respect for all that you receive? How do you see yourself? So like Laura had one simple, beautiful question. And I was like, what's all this about? So I just rambled, but at its heart, she had it. Do you feel that this is a reciprocal relationship? So there it is.
Yeah. I know. And that might have been where that question came from. For me, I feel like it is, because of how much time I spend with nature. So, and I feel like it can be things like making sure that, I choose not to harm creatures or animals or anything. So that's reciprocal. And I do what I can to keep everything clean and keep, gardens kept nicely and things like that, just to make sure that I'm giving back to nature. But I think it's just the kindness, nature keeps me kind and thoughtful to the importance of all other animals and creatures. Like, if, to be honest, if there's a spider in my house, I won't kill it because I feel bad. And I know that that's probably not a common thing, but that's how connected I am with the fact that I feel like everyone has a place, everything belongs, and there's a reason why everything is here. And to me, that's like the reciprocity of it is I wouldn't want to be treated any differently just because something like looks different or seems different. And to me, I have this big respect for everything in its place in nature, and I try to leave it that way, and I respect that. And then I feel like I get so much back in return from nature.
So almost like remembering your place in that circle of life, instead of that pyramid that we often see with, man at the
Yeah,
top and then
being part of it.
animals down to plants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Being part of nature. I feel like I'm part of it. I think that's the key.
Yeah. I it was, as you were talking, Laura, I think you and I are going to say the exact same thing. We're just going to I'm going to use different words than you. But it's the same sort of thing as all of a sudden I just, fell back on my, yoga, twice daily yoga of saying namaste. And I started to think about what that means to me. And that's how I feel that the reciprocity happens between myself and nature. I bow and honor nature for what it gives to me. And I do my best not to create any harm. I don't, I don't, uh, you know, I don't throw garbage around. I don't leave um, traces of hopefully myself in places where it's nature. I'm very gentle with the forest. I don't dig things up or create, like I honor what I see and what I find. If it's quiet, I allow it to be quiet. I'm not a noise, a garbage noise maker. I'm not, you know what I mean? I think it's just that I honor it. And so there is that reciprocity from that standpoint. And when I am around nature, I tend to treat it gently. I think that's, so yes, the answer is yes. Do I feel it's reciprocal? I do. Because it gives so much to me. When I think about myself sitting, and the vision that I had for myself was sitting at the cottage with my feet in the water, and just sitting quietly and listening to the loons. I hope that I am giving that the respect, attention, and importance that it deserves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. I I can definitely, I'm definitely tuned into everything you guys are saying. I think that I feel that too. And I find that quite often when I'm bathing in the forest, what I love the most is, after about that 15-20 minute mark, when you suddenly feel like you're accepted, like the animals come a little closer and everything just kind of goes back to the way it was if you weren't there, but you are there. And suddenly you're just kind of welcomed in and you're just one of the other animals in the forest. And I remember the first few times that I found that comfortable as opposed to a bit unsettling as a woman who was, used to camping on my own, but not that kind of quiet time in nature. Making noise was always a way to feel safer. But I find that in that quiet time, when I'm receiving the most, I also feel like I'm giving the most. Um, and whether that's, a little companionship or comfort or just an understanding, a deeper understanding. I think the more that my relationship with nature deepens, the more I understand it, the more passionate I am about protecting it and accepting it as it is, because that's what it does for me. Doesn't matter what mood I'm in or how I look or when I arrive or when I leave, I'm accepted exactly as I am. And so, like you were saying, Laura, I don't have the desire to manicure and change the spaces and build up, these outdoor environments. It's about accepting nature as it is. Yeah, and I feel like that's, can you imagine if we could really live that way? if if all of us could really live that way every day, my God, I don't
Just
know.
let it be. Yeah,
Just to
letting
let
things
it
be
be.
natural. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah,
there.
we started that way, and then we moved into this whole structured environment. And then we discovered that when that happened, we stepped further away from our natural selves. I mean, it's the most unnatural state to be in, as far as I'm concerned, to have rigidity around what you must and must not do. And nature just is. There's lots of things that are good. There's lots of things that are bad that happens, but it just is.
Yeah.
And everything happens in the right time too. It's not, I'm learning a lot about that. We spend so much time trying to push up against things and force things to happen. I feel like that's like just what we've learned in our society. But if you pay attention to the way that nature works, it always unfolds naturally and it always works out perfectly. And I can look at the big picture of our lives and say that that is the case. But sometimes when you're really stuck right in it in the moment, it's hard to see that everything's happening all in perfect timing. It's like a art of learning how to flow and let things be and know that it will actually work out whether you do something or not. But it's hard because we haven't been, I don't think, taught that it's okay to just let it be.
Well, and that we have to measure progress, and that and that there are, standard milestones, and I don't know, it's kind of wild. I often think about that, like a spider can spin an entire web in a matter of hours, but a tree could take 20 years to fall. But they're both equally beautiful. And they both happen naturally when they're supposed to happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So when we think about not just, the reciprocity in the relationship, or how we are today and how we are talking about that connection to the earth, moving forward between now and say next Earth Day, what can you see yourself doing to deepen that connection farther? Maybe it's daily, maybe it's a daily ritual, maybe it's weekly, or maybe it's just certain things that you're going to bring into your life, or that make you feel really good, that you want more of.
I
don't know.
It's funny, I thought I had an answer for this one, and now this is like a brand new question all over again. For me, I want to keep doing what I'm doing, and I just want to step it up a notch. So I still have those days where I'll go for the 10-minute walk because I've made that commitment to myself. But the days when I'll just let myself go wander for, no set amount of time, those are the best, most magical. Like that's when I learn the most. That's when if I was worried about something, then right after that time, I just get the answers to everything that I need from walking, and it makes such a big difference. So I just probably will commit more to letting myself have more time, and knowing that that's making progress, it's making changes in life, and it's making changes in me. It's just not measured that way. I think Annie said something about that earlier. Like it's hard to, you're not measured like that in a certain way, but it actually makes all the difference in the world to allow the time without the time limit. That's what I would like to
without the time limit. So remove the time limit.
Yes.
Keep doing what you're doing. Remove the time limit.
Yeah.
And allow yourself to do it.
Be like a child, just go roam around.
Yeah. Like Freya wrestling her chicken today, Annie in rubber boots and a tutu.
I love that woman. She's the best.
Yeah,
that just totally made my day. Chicken wrestling in rubber boots and a tutu.
Yep.
Yeah.
Why not? Why not?
Oh, why not indeed?
Man.
Yeah.
I totally, I really relate to what you're saying, Laura. I find that there are times where, especially now when we're, homeschooling and both trying to still work full time, I find that, oh my God, I have a 3-hour window. That's it. I've got to get a full day's work done in my 3-hour half day until, we switch roles. And so how can I be the most productive in those 3 hours? And sometimes it's sitting in front of a screen, and whether it's ruminating, whether it's, sometimes if I allow myself that time outdoors, I will come to the solution that I need faster.
Yes, absolutely.
Faster.
Yeah.
The plan will make sense. The flow will make sense. The schedule will make sense. The proposal will practically write itself by the time I get back. It's almost
so
like
true.
you said, a reset.
Yeah.
And I find that it's the easiest way to kind of clear the cobwebs.
Yes.
And distill what it is that I'm feeling, that I'm thinking, and remind myself of what it is I'm passionate about and why I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And it all happens. It all happens. And so I need to remind myself of that more often. And maybe if I've got that 3-hour window, I spend the first 15, 20 minutes of it unstructured outdoors. I don't know. But yeah, I like that. I like that push. I think I need more of that.
It's where all the answers come from. It's just like it's just not the way that things are normally done, but you're right. Everything, you get all the answers, everything writes itself. It's the most effortless way to be productive.
Yeah, that's right. Well, isn't that how like Da Vinci came up with all his brilliant ideas? Come on, wasn't it just playing in nature?
Probably. And we can all be brilliant just like that.
Yeah.
Hey, it worked for Newton. He just sat under a tree and had an apple fall on his head, right? So
right. So,
I mean, everything starts there.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love it.
The apple tree.
So what other rituals or ways of feeling that sort of honor, respect, passion, love for the earth? How else can we bring that into our days every day and not just once a year? And I brought this in with this question in mind, because I find that sometimes it's the sights, but sometimes it's the smells. And so every once in a while, I'll grab a tiny little piece of cedar, usually look for it on the ground first, and give it a good crumple. And you know how people often diffuse essential oils in their homes, but sometimes there's something really beautiful at looking at the tiny patterns and the perfect symmetry and the beauty of it and the color and the texture and the tiny bit of oiliness that you get when you crumple it up in your hands, and it feels good. And then the smell. So appreciating all of it, I think, is something that I want to do, whether it's, stop and smell the flowers. I mean, that's a saying for a reason. So how do we stop and smell the flowers every day? And I think that's the one thing that I want to keep front of mind or front of heart for this year.
Yeah, I think that's if I could find a way of doing that on a regular, I mean, it's, the one thing that I've done this year that I am thrilled that I did after wanting to do for a long time is I had cedar, aromatic cedar installed on the ceiling in my bathroom. So every single time you have a shower, when you get out, all you smell is the cedar, and it's beautiful and calming. It is just like the most lovely thing. And it's the smell. It's amazing how much the smell of nature changes your mindset in that. And it's, whether it's with essential oils or aromatic candles.
Everybody's all over houseplants. Yeah.
But they don't smell. Like, a lot of them don't smell. Whereas, some of the, even the smell of moss or rotting leaves, the smell of rotting leaves, whether you it's still, it is so calming. So I try, for me, when I can't get out in nature, I try to surround myself in nature and things that make me calm. So even as I'm sitting here and I'm talking to you both on my laptop, the desktop theme on my computer is a slideshow of forest scenes.
That's great.
you know, and it's, so this one that I've got right now is, you know, the entire floor bed is covered in fall leaves, and there's mist, and the trees are covered in moss, and
Oh,
it's just, but it's a trigger
you
to
can almost
stop.
smell it.
Yeah, exactly. You stop, you close your eyes, even after even having that image, or just get lost in that image and think of what would I be seeing, feeling, hearing, smelling,
Yeah.
experiencing if I was there. And making sure that if I can't for whatever reason be in nature, I pull nature back into my mind,
Mm.
my
Yeah.
reality, my awareness.
And those imaginal senses are like the mother lode of
Mhm.
memories, right? I mean, any fun, any favorite day, you know, throughout your life, you're not just going to remember who was there or what it is you were doing. If you think about it, you're going to remember the sun, the grass, other sensory
Yep.
Yes.
experiences, right?
Yep.
You're going to remember that.
The sand, the water, the surf, the everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything that you experienced in that moment. And it's so to try and capture those things on a regular sort of daily basis. I mean, yeah, we can um, grow more houseplants, or, you know, make more moments of going out. I think for me, it's when I experience nature is to be more fully engaged in it, as opposed to I've got to leave my house to get to work and just
Mm-hmm.
think I need to get there. No,
And the
that in
earbuds
itself
are
is
in.
the experience, right?
Yes.
Yes.
And
Yes.
you're walking the path, but you're walking by everything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
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 And that's the beautiful, you know, one of the silver linings for me of what COVID has brought to us is the opportunity that when you do go for a walk, you're not going somewhere. You're just going, right?
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
actually, and so you might as well enjoy what's around you,
Yeah.
and experience that and get in touch with that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like
I
to do
had this
more of that.
I had this really interesting moment last week where I was super aware of myself. I went for a walk last week, but I had something weighing very heavily on my mind. And I noticed I got pretty far into the forest and I still hadn't come out of my mind, the stuff that I was focused on, to really even know where I was. Like I wasn't recognizing the trees, I wasn't smelling, I wasn't like feeling the sun. And it took me a few times. I actually had to stop myself and say, okay, Laura, you're in the forest. You have to just pay attention to where you are right now. And it was really fascinating to be that I'm aware of what I was doing and I was still in the forest, but I was so caught up in my mind and what was going on there that it took me quite a bit of time to even just be present there in that moment. So it has a lot to do with the awareness piece. And I don't know, like setting yourself a reminder every day or something like that, just to, you know, to not, like you said, you're walking, but are you there? Or like, are you present? Are you aware of what you're actually
Or are
enjoying in
you
the moment?
still disconnected? Or are you
Yeah.
still
Yeah.
really disconnected, right?
Yeah. Are you still at your
Yeah.
computer writing an email in your head or
In your
yeah.
multitasking, because
Yeah.
that's what's ingrained in us to do. You know, as we're talking, this thought is sort of surfacing, and it's that what if we were to treat our relationship with the earth like a friendship,
Yes.
one that's nurtured, one
Yeah.
that we think of often, one that, you know, maybe as a mother and child sort of relationship? Because I've begun thinking about that. Like, if both of my children can have a deep connected relationship with the earth, I feel like they'll be okay once I'm gone.
Yes.
So if
Yeah.
I feel that and it's that deep and meaningful to me, then there's this kinship and this
Yes.
trust and this
Yes.
belief or knowledge or knowing that I have in that, the power of that connection and that relationship. And so It does. It kind of feels like this nurturing, like I'm nurturing that friendship, that relationship.
I
Yeah.
really like that. And I know I've used this question on for different things, but I love the piece about the friendship piece. And if you wanted to flip it around to do some like personal inquiry on it, I think a great question too is if nature was your friend, what would it say about you? Right? Like that's how you know, like what is the balance in that friendship? Is it one way, or is it like is it the
Hmm.
reciprocal relationship that we're talking about? I really like that. It's like, what's your friendship? What's the
Yeah.
friendship like between you
Yeah.
and nature?
And I always find that of the two of us, now that I'm thinking about it as this entity, it's the
Mhm.
wise elder
Yes,
for sure.
Oh, yeah.
I would
Oh,
agree.
without a doubt.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it,
absolutely.
well, you know, if nothing else, because it knows what's important,
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
really.
yeah.
Yeah.
You know, well,
Yeah.
that they call it, they don't call it Mother Nature for nothing.
So true.
Seriously,
It's
right?
Yeah.
true.
When
Yeah.
you want to feel, I mean, that's, I think it's fascinating that, when we want to feel connected and heard and accepted, who do we go to?
Mhm.
We
Hmm.
go to Mother Nature or our own mothers. I mean, I think
Yeah,
that there's
Hmm.
it's a fascinating and
Yeah.
interesting way of
And it,
questioning why it would be called that.
yes, yeah.
yes. And you know, I find that one of the things that I come up against sometimes in that conversation of forest therapy and what it means in terms of cultural repair, I think a big part of it is, what do we see on the news about Mother Earth? Destruction, floods, fires, damage. People
Mhm.
almost have more of a fear of nature than a love at times. They understand that they
Yeah.
have to protect it. They understand that it, sustains life, air,
Mhm.
water, soil.
Yes.
Um, but there's also this fear. And I think it stems from a place potentially of not knowing or not understanding.
Yeah.
But again, I think it's because that relationship is missing, right? That
It's also,
Yeah.
intimate relationship is
yeah,
missing.
it's also control. It's also the desire to control.
Mm.
We as a species need to control our surroundings so that we can feel that we have the power over our surroundings. And we've always fought against Mother Nature, because she's just not going to let us control. It's just like,
Yeah, yeah.
sucks to you,
No, it's not
be
going
you
to happen.
guys. And if you do try to control me, this is what's going to happen. Right?
Yeah.
Kind of what she's doing now. And really, and it is, it's because we fear, we fear a loss of control over
Yeah.
our environment,
Mhm.
um, in many, many
Yeah,
ways.
but
And
and isn't it kind of sad that if we only just allowed ourselves to repair that relationship, so many of the other problems would fall away, really, I
Mhm.
believe.
yeah, I think that again, it comes, I mean, then we get into a whole political thing, but then it comes into the people who, most of the people that are creating the damage is a small percentage of the population,
Yes. Yes,
right?
it's true.
Yeah.
Lots of other people are involved in the destruction, but the key people who
Hmm.
are causing the problem are a
Hmm.
very small percentage, and
Hmm.
they've sucked everyone else in because they give them money.
Capitalism in relationship with the earth.
Yeah.
Meet me.
Yeah.
And I think
Okay,
that
let's not get too dark. Let's
I
keep
think
let's
that
keep it.
yeah,
What?
it definitely brings us back to that question of what each of us individually can do every day, because it's about nurturing that connection regardless
Mhm.
of what's going on. I feel like that's where, because when you feel the energy of the difference that it makes in your life and the value of nature and respecting the earth and all of that, it just becomes such a strong bond that it can't be broken. And it's about the individual connection. And for sure,
Yeah.
like I think
Yeah.
that's
Yeah, I
what
think
it
for
should
Sharing
happen.
that light, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
I think when, you know, it's actually, you said something that's really fascinating. It just triggered in me, what can I do each and every day to grow that relationship? I can honor it and I can acknowledge it and I can see it.
Yes.
And I think that's a really important element for me. Everything else is bonus, but for me to acknowledge that and look outside and have gratitude for the beauty
Yeah.
that's around me,
Appreciation.
I think
Yeah.
that's something that I need to continually make sure I do. You know, and and it's a small thing, but even if you do that, even if I open up my curtains and look outside and go, what a gorgeous day, look at the buds on that tree, look at the grass, oh, the bunnies that
Yeah.
have come
Yeah.
through, you know what, and
Yeah.
find that joy, then that small bit grows into, now I'd like to go out and take a walk. And while I'm out, I'm going to pick out that piece of garbage. And while I'm, you know what I mean? And I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
I think it's just to be aware, be grateful, and be happy for what we have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The genuine appreciation of the nature and what it offers. And then that automatically raises your own feeling of positive vibes, and your positive energy and vibration is higher. And then everything else just gets better from there. So
Yeah.
yeah, it just
Yeah.
continues.
I think so too. Yeah. That was our last question.
Oh,
All
I
right.
know.
I
I
passed the
know.
test.
It's a great conversation.
But I think it's been beautiful hearing. I mean, there are so many common threads of connection, even just between the three of us. And yet we each have a very different relationship, understanding, and appreciation for our connection with nature.
Yes.
And that's something to be celebrated, I think.
Yeah.
It's fascinating, it's beautiful, and it's inspiring.
Yes.
So
And
I
it
hope that,
causes hope. Causes
yes,
hope for going forward, because if
yes.
we are people that are then sharing how we feel about it, and and sharing with our families that love and appreciation for it, then it goes forward and it pays forward, and the
Yeah.
knowledge and the acceptance and the appreciation is continues, the honoring continues.
Yeah, I
Definitely.
think so.
Mm-hmm.
We had initially thought that maybe we'd have some time for a little bit of a forest bathing session at the end, but it's almost 8 o'clock. So maybe instead, I don't know. I mean, instead, why don't we say that we're going to share this recording for free with anyone we want to,
Yes.
and ask them to pass it along with the intention of rekindling that love and that connection, and thinking about what each of us can carry forward for the next year. And maybe we reconnect in a year from now on the next Earth
Yeah.
Day and see how this conversation has shifted. And maybe there'll be more than 3 of us next year.
And maybe we'll be in person.
Maybe we'll be in person.
Yes. In nature.
In
Maybe we'll be
nature.
in nature. And we
Instead
won't
of
even
with
have
my house
devices.
plants.
Yes.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
that's a
So I
great
don't know. How do
idea.
you guys feel? Is that a good way to
Sure.
wrap things
I
up
think
for
that's
tonight?
I think that's great. I think that was a powerful conversation that hopefully resonates with a lot of people. And like you said, I love the idea of next year actually we'll be in nature all together and not recording anything, because we can just
Yes.
be present where we are and not need a device.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yes. It's so true. I have a feeling a lot of people are going to be like burning headphones at the end of this.
Yes.
Wait, that wasn't a very
Which is
environmentally
kind of a nice thing, because people are going to want to not be tied to a screen anymore.
Yeah. Oh, I
It's
hope
almost
so.
like, you know, really, it really is. It's
Yeah.
almost like, oh, okay, you said you wanted to just sit around, do nothing except sit around and binge Netflix all weekend. Well, guess what?
Go outside.
Have a year of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. After a while, you even get sick of chocolate, right? Is that possible? I don't know. Like if you
Mm,
just eat it every day, all day. I don't know. That could be the case.
I can ask Connor.
Oh yeah. Well, I am going to enjoy the rest of my cup of tea and sit with my sage a little while longer. And I'm going to enjoy the last little light of the
Right.
sunset.
Well, good for you. I think I will go outside and just sit and have a cup of tea out on my back stoop. So there you
Good
are.
Perfect.
for you. I'm gonna do the
Yeah.
same. Enjoy the rest of the daylight.
Yeah. Amazing. All
Thank
right.
you so much,
Thank
everyone.
you.
I love that.
Yeah. Okay.
Great
Take care,
point.
everybody.
All
Yeah.
right. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.